Hello, and welcome back to Movie Recap Factory. Today, we will give you a recap of an action crime movie from 2008 titled Taken. Without further ado, let's get started. Spoilers ahead! The movie starts, and we see a man named Bryan, who is a retired government agent. He is at an electronics store and is carefully choosing a karaoke device for his beloved 17-year-old daughter, Kim's birthday. As Bryan arrives at a luxury mansion, Kim's mother, Lenore, is very cold towards him, criticizing his choice of a gift and why he is even showed in the first place. The daughter is extremely pleased with her gift. However, she is soon distracted by her wealthy stepfather Stuart's gift of a large horse. Later, Bryan is alone in his small, modest apartment. Three friends, also retired agents, drop by for poker, steaks, and beer. One of them, Sam, invites Bryan to make some quick cash working security with him by escorting a female pop star to her nearby concert. After her vocal warm-up, Bryan asks the pop star Shira for an advice he could give his daughter, who also wishes to be a singer. Shira answers, tell her to pick another career. Bryan gets a phone call from Kim, inviting him to lunch. At the concert, things get anxious for a moment when security is distracted by a mob of fans breaking through. Bryan escorts Shira away from the crowd, but is confronted with a knife-wielding assailant that Bryan quickly takes down. As a thank you, Shira offers to help Bryan's daughter with a vocal coach and manager if she has any natural talent. The next day, the man goes to see his daughter at lunch, and she arrives with her mother. He is told that Kim is planning on going to Paris for a vacation with her friend Amanda. She is underage, so she cannot go to Paris without Bryan signing some papers. Bryan, however, goes on to refuse, adding that it is not safe for a 17-year-old girl to travel alone. Kim gets upset and leaves, while Lenore tells him to give the little girl some space and sign the papers, and she too leaves after that. Bryan thinks about it, and the next day he goes to see her daughter to give her the signed papers. He, however, tells her that he has some conditions, saying that she is not allowed to go to certain areas of Paris, and she is supposed to call him every night before she goes to bed. At the airport, as Bryan is retrieving Kim's luggage from the car, he sees a map of Europe with several cities circled in a pocket of Kim's luggage. He confronts Lenore, who admits that the girls are actually going to follow the rock band U2 on their European tour, not just stay in Paris. Bryan is angry, but it is too late to do anything about it. In Paris, while standing in the line for a taxi at the airport, the two girls meet a friendly, handsome young Parisian named Peter. He suggests that they all share a taxi for the expensive ride downtown. Amanda immediately accepts and Kim reluctantly agrees. While they wait, they had Peter take their picture with Kim's phone. Appearing chivalrous, Peter has the taxi drop the girls off first. He invites them to a party that very night, and Amanda eagerly accepts. As the taxi pulls away, Peter makes a quick phone call. He simply says two girls, about 18, and the address of the apartment. Upstairs, Kim inquires where the cousins are at. Amanda breezily announces that the cousins are on vacation in Spain, and giggly announces as she jumps on the couch that she plans to have sex with Peter later on. Bryan tries calling Kim, but she does not pick up the phone, and when she finally does, she tells him that she is okay, and Bryan asks her to tell him her exact location. As she stands in the window talking to her dad, some men arrive and go on to abduct Amanda. Kim panics while she is still on the call with her dad. He records everything and tells her to follow his instructions. He asks the girl to get under the bed, but she is then dragged out of there. And when Bryan is on the speakerphone, he tells the abductor only let his daughter go and he will not follow them, and adds that if they do not accept his offer, they're dead. Kim, in the meantime, goes on to scream out the description of the kidnappers, well, as much as she can. The girl screamed out, beard, 6 feet, tattoo, right hand, moon, and star. Bryan sends the taped conversation to Sam, his ex-agency friend from the concert. Bryan then storms over to Stuart, his wife's second husband, and confronts him about possible business enemies of Stuart arranging Kim's kidnapping. Stuart and Lenore are surprised about how much of Stuart's business Bryan knows. Bryan is satisfied that Stuart's business affairs are not the source of the problem, and he tells Stuart he needs a private jet to Paris an hour ago. Bryan searches Kim's room and all her personal possessions for possible clues. Meanwhile, he's on a speakerphone with Sam so Lenore can hear. Sam provides a detailed report that identifies the language as Albanian, and he even narrows down the accent down to a specific town in Albania. Their leader's name is Marco, and he is a very powerful figure. Sam tells him that the Albanians kidnap girls for prostitution, and Bryan has, at most, 96 hours before Kim will disappear forever.
Bryan right away flies to Paris and breaks into the apartment the girls stayed at.
He tries to recreate the image of what must have happened there. he comes across Kim's broken phone and picks up the memory card. He finds Peter at the airport trying to charm a female traveler. Bryan gives chase in a stolen taxi. While fleeing, Peter is struck and killed by an oncoming truck.
With his only lead dead,
Bryan turns to an old contact, ex-DGSE agent turned national police officer Jean-Claude Petrel, who now has a desk job. The man tells him about the Red Line District, where the Albanian prostitution ring operates, but goes on to warn him not to get involved. When Ryan arrives at Porte Cliché, he goes on to hire an Albanian translator. He goes on to approach a prostitute and starts annoying her. He does that in hoping that the pimp will show up and he could have a lead. The pimp shows up, and when the man tries to push him away, Bryan happily goes away, but not before he installs an eavesdropping device so he can hear what they are talking about wherever the man goes. As they talk, the translator translates everything, and Bryan has a lead. He goes on to follow the man, and there he gets into what seems like a prostitution den. He finds his daughter's jacket, but his daughter is still nowhere near to be found. He then goes on to rescue a drugged young woman. After a shootout and dealing with the pimps, he takes the woman to a secure place. He then goes on to improvise her detoxification. When Bryan asks her about the jacket and the girl wearing it, all she can remember is it was at a red house with red doors on the Rue Paradise. Bryan finds the house with the red doors, walks in bold and confident, and presents Jean-Claude's business card as his own. Bryan is led past several thugs to a dirty kitchen. 4 Albanians are seated around a table. Bryan tries to ascertain who is the leader, but they all claim to be Marco, and all from the town that Bryan's language expert had identified. Bryan then gives him a note to read, and when he reads, "Good luck," he right away recognizes the man Bryan says, "I told you I was going to find you."
a fight ensues, and Bryan goes on to beat everyone around him.
When the smoke clears, Bryan has killed all of them but Marco. Bryan searches for Kim in all the upper bedrooms of the building. He finds several women handcuffed to beds and Amanda's dead body. He tortures Marco with electricity. After trying to tough it out, Marco tells Bryan Kim was sold to a man named St. Clair. Bryan then turns the power back on and leaves Marco screaming in agony. Bryan then makes his way out to see Jean-Claude. At his apartment, Bryan confronts the police officers over his corruption and shoots his wife, wounding her to coerce him into disclosing St. Clair's location before knocking him out. Again, posing as Jean-Claude, Bryan gains access to a party St. Clair is hosting. Bryan discovers St. Clair is hosting a much darker party on a lower level. Bryan assumes the guise of a waiter and gains access to a darkened room facing a wall of glass. One of a series of the same types of rooms that encircle an open stage. On the stage are young, drugged, scantily clad young women and a handler. In each darkened cubicle, a bidder presses a red button when they wish to bid. The auction ends and the girl is led away. The auctioneer announces the last and best woman of the evening's auction. An American, pure virgin, the girl is Kim. Bryan forces Ellie, one of the bidders, to purchase his daughter, but is subsequently caught and knocked out. When the host of the parties gets to know who he is, he orders his men to kill him. Bryan, however, manages to break loose and goes on to kill all of them. Bryan then goes out of the room to find St. Clair and asks him about his daughter at gunpoint. St. Clair reveals that Kim was taken to a yacht owned by a sheik named Rayman before Bryan shoots the man repeatedly as if he is taking out his frustration. Bryan pursues the yacht and eliminates the bodyguards, including Ali, before he finds Rayman holding Kim at knife point. When Rayman attempts to negotiate, Bryan kills him with a headshot. Back in the United States, Bryan surprises Kim by taking her to visit Shira, and with that, the movie ends. So that was all from the movie. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below, and do subscribe to our channel to view more of our amazing movie recaps. And do hit the bell icon to receive instant notifications from our side. See you all next time.